Alrighty, folks, it is 5:01 p.m. So as promised, we'll go ahead and get started. Can everyone see my screen? Thumbs up. All right, perfect. So my name is Sarah Williams. I'm academic success coach at the Tutoring and Testing Center at Nova. And so today we are here for what? Why is there a pumpkin? Who cares? Well, it's October and Halloween is just around the corner if you're partaking in any tricking or treating. But we're here today to trick or treat your memory. Ooh, fancy. So tips and test taking strategies, all about that good stuff. We will have an interactive portion, so hopefully we get some interaction and a little panel at the end. And we'll go ahead and get moving. So we're going to talk about some study tips, test taking strategies, and testing anxiety and ways that we can cope through that. So here's my little skeleton guy. He has his little bucket doing the most. Okay. So jumping in, our first topic is study tips. So it's all about knowing yourself, some trial and error here and there, and being proactive. So the three things we're going to talk about when it comes to study tips are: how do I learn best? Where do I learn best? And how often do I study? So those are some key things to consider when we're studying. So a fun fact. So we do have a lot of learning styles. However, the most common way that people learn is actually visually. So that's why your professors are like giving you all these lovely PowerPoints. However, there's no meaning behind them, right? There's no meaning behind the PowerPoints and you're drowning in them and you're like, I need something more. So we're going to give you something more. So we have a learning style matching game. Yes, yes, yes. We're going to take some time to know ourselves. So here is a fun game we're going to do. I think it's fun, whatever, in a nerdy type of way. So on the left-hand side in black, you'll see some questions. And then on the right side in white, you will see some study tips based on the what you're interested in. So for the first one, so we have, do you like math? Do you like asking a lot of questions? And do you like Rubik's Cubes? So with our googly eye, we want to match it to the other side. So you can go ahead and type in the chat which, I guess, cartoon you think it matches with. Give you a couple seconds. So is it a cat, the candy, the moon, pumpkin, the brain? Oh, you know what? You probably can't see it because there's a little block in the way. So anybody thumbs up for, do you like math, asking a lot of questions, and liking Rubik's Cube? So does anybody like those things? No one?
Yes, I guess I like them.
Okay, so Elliot likes Rubik's Cubes. Yes, okay. So for you, my friends, on our list on the other side, so let's see what you might fit with. So, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. So you might like to try, let's see if everybody got it right. The moon, yes, it's the moon. Perfect. Okay, so we want to try studying by categorizing, classifying, and making patterns. So that is the key there. So if you're studying a hard subject and you're like, it's not working, not clicking, and you're a person who asks a lot of questions, you like math, try putting things into categories, especially if you're in a psychology class, but you're like all about math and all about science. Sometimes those subjects might be a little bit harder for you. So categorizing might help, like based on diagnosis or symptoms, things like that. Okay, the next one. Any book lovers or writers or storytellers? Thumbs up. All right, Cassandra. Okay. So what do you think will match with that? So you can type it in the chat.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch it. Match with what?
So we're at the bat right now. So are you a book lover, writer, or storyteller? And we want to see which cartoon on the other side will match it. So is it the pumpkin, the brain? We already got the moon, the cat, oh, and the candy. All right, let's see what we got. We got a lot of pumpkins going on. Okay, let's check and see if that's right. Yes, that is right. Okay, so try studying or reading out loud or listening. So perfect. So these are for my storytellers. Anybody in an anatomy class or psychology class? Thumbs up, raise hand. Well, thumbs up, raise hand. Oh, we got a thumb up. Okay, yay. All right, so for those classes, so it's a little hard sometimes, especially when our classes are more like hard facts, like yes or no, it's this bone, not that bone type of thing. Um, and if you are someone who loves books and writing and telling stories, telling yourself a story about that anatomy picture or that person that you are having as a client or something like that, if you are in one of those psychology classes, that's going to help you get across to the other side and understand that material a little bit better because you're attaching a story to it, which is going to provide some meaning to it, give you some meat to hold on to. Okay, so we got our artists. Any artists in the house or people who like know? We got to know. That's funny. Okay, we got some thumbs up. So, all right, type in the chat what you think it would match with on the other side. This one's kind of easy. All right, let's see. We got a lot of cats going on. Yes, cats, absolutely. So trying to study by visualizing using color codes, pictures, and drawings. So this will be a lifesaver. Anybody want to go into the medical field? Thumbs up. No one? Oh, okay, we got one. Okay, great, awesome. I'm in the medical field, so it's refreshing. It's nice. Okay, so for my medical people, this will definitely be a strategy to keep, especially when you're anatomy classes, biology classes, chemistry if you're going into organic chemistry. So that is going to be something to keep in your back pocket. Also, what are my other majors in the house? Just shout them out.
Education.
Ooh. Okay, we got education. What else? Is everyone education? Hey, I like education. Education's cool. Let me see in the chat. Yep. Okay. Education, psych, English. Okay. All right. We got to get a little mix there. Perfect. Okay. So from education people, this can also come in handy with you too, and psychology and English, pretty much all of them, because visual learning goes hand in hand with drawing and building and designing. So using that, and you don't have to be the best artist. It could be stick figures. It could just be circles and squares. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. One of the things that is pretty helpful is if you have a lot of PowerPoint you're getting from your professors, but it's a lot of words and it's just boring and it's not working out, go back as a study mechanism to add pictures in there. So you can add pictures from the internet that make you laugh, that are funny, that are cute. You can draw it in yourself just to kind of help connect the dots. Okay, we got two more. Okay, we're at the witch hat. So are you good at holding a tune, remembering melodies, or rhymes? Which one do you think matches? let's check it out. The brain. Yes, it's all about that brain. Yes. Okay. So, trying to study by making up a rhythm, a melody, or a song. So that is where it's all about. So we tend to remember all the lyrics to our favorite song. Maybe it's Beyonce, maybe it's Coldplay, whoever is your cup of tea. So if you're like, wow, that new song just came out and I already know every word to it. So coming up with your own song or melody to help solidify the information in your brain is really going to help. So for education, so there was this old commercial. I don't know if anybody remembers. It's called Education Connection. Anybody get connected for free? So yeah, that commercial. I remember it. I remember the jingles from like Dragon Tales and all these other things, and I still remember it. So trying to come up with catchy phrases or rhymes will definitely help with the harder material that you're learning about. So if it's Vygotsky, if it's Piaget, if it's Erickson, be like, all right, Erickson did da 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 da. Just make it up. Whatever floats your boat. And if your roommate thinks you're weird, ask them to try it and see how they do on their quiz. All right, last one. You already know what it is, but we're at the zombie hand. So do you have a hard time staying still when you're studying? Anybody? That's me. Thumbs up for me. Oh, yes. Yes, Haley. Okay. So you can put it in the chat. It's the last one. Yes, Elliot too. Okay. It's art candy. So trying to study by creating movements to go along with a definition and keeping your body moving. So I have a swivel chair. I mean, honestly, it's a little distracting to me, but hey, you know what? I got to keep moving. Getting up and taking those breaks. So if you're like, wow, like I need to just focus, I can't focus. Take a break, go walk around, like especially if you're off camera just for a second or you're on a little Zoom break, get up, go walk around for a second. It'll make the world of a difference. Or if you notice that, hey, I have all this energy in the morning and I need to get it out and I hate sitting down, try exercising in the morning, get it out of the way so that you're ready to focus. But yeah, you can also try standing up. So while you do work, if you have a standing desk, or even if you don't have a standing desk, putting it on like a table or on a dresser, something that's above hip height, so that you can go ahead and type along or write along or whatever, however you study. All right. Moving forward, where do I study? So are we in the castle dungeons at Hogwarts? I don't think so. That's not where we want to be. So we want to be somewhere where there's natural light, it's well lit. If you don't have natural light, hey, no problem. Sit underneath like a nice lamp or try to study in the morning time or when the light is nice and fresh. So visual clutter. So visual clutter is exactly what I mean. So if you have clothes all over your bed and you've been just moving the pile from one side of the bed to the other side of the bed, and you're like, I'll put them away later. I'll do it later. If it's in your line of sight when you're trying to study, it is a distraction. If your desk has piles of paper and work and water bottles that are empty, just scattered all over the place, empty teacup mugs and coffee mugs, that is visual clutter and it is distracting. So making sure that those things are out of your line of sight. If you just got to cram it all behind your laptop, so be it. Take it away. Limited noise. This is hard, especially if we live with other people. So thumbs up if you live with somebody else and it tends to get a little loud. Yeah. Yeah, almost everybody. It's hard. It's definitely rough, especially COVID without, having separation of spaces and everything. So, you could spend a lot of money on those noise canceling headphones, but however, that is not in everyone's budget. So, trying to use what you got. So if you have the little ones that come with your phone or like old fashioned pullover ones, that can work. Listening to music without headphones, that can also help. Having a fan, so that gets some white noise out. Or even there's apps on your phone for white noise too. So that can help play in the background so you have like a little bit less distraction. Um, If none of those are an option for you and you've tried day in and day out, you tried all the apps, trying to see how whoever you're living with, whether it's your family, roommate, significant other, whoever, trying to sync up with their schedule. So if you notice that, hey, they leave the house at, 6 o'clock to go to the gym. I really have this important quiz coming up or this paper, and I just need total silence. When they're gone at the gym, whoo, it's time to get to work. Or if you've noticed that if you have younger siblings or it just gets rowdy in the morning or at night, switch up your study schedule if it works for you. So studying in the morning when everything's quiet or studying at night when people are starting to go to sleep. So keeping that in mind if you don't have the other options. And then we have change in scenery. Yes. So assuming thumbs up if you study in your room most of the time. Wow, we have a lot of people. Oh, we got one. Okay, cool. So I study in my room a lot, and that is, it can be helpful, but or not. But changing up the scenery can definitely help, especially if every time you walk into that room where you're on Zoom all day or you're studying all day, when you walk into that room, if you're feeling kind of like, oh gosh, here we go again, I have to sit down, getting stressed out, switching it up. Go to the living room, the kitchen, outside, go to the library if you're comfortable. So taking those moments to really evaluate the scenery. And if that means just rearranging your room or adding some cool decorations or feng shui, do it. Try it out because who knows how long we'll be on Zoom. And even when we're after Zoom is over, just keeping that in mind. And then distractions, my favorite thing. So we got the bells and whistles going off on our phone, on our laptop, on our iPad, on your smart TV, whatever you got. Your watch, I forget about the watches. And soon the glasses, who knows? So keeping in mind that those are distractions. And if they're in your line of sight and vicinity or you hear it, it will definitely affect your study habits, even having the TV on. But if you use the TV as a white noise type of thing, that's fine. Just knowing yourself and what works for you. Because some people thrive in a busy coffee shop with a bunch of noise, or they don't mind if their roommate's blasting music. I do. But your choice. Okay. Thumbs up. How are we doing? Okay. Meh. Kind of low. Yes. Okay. Yay. Thumbs up. So when should I start to review? Yeah, this is the one that gets everybody, and we don't want to do it. Who reads before class, right? We try, but it definitely does make a difference. So according to Ebbinghaus' forgetting curve, this is my rendition of it. So we are the vampire. We're feeling so good, so cool. We're feeling ourselves because it's been 0 minutes since we just learned this new material. And our professor's like, they ask you a question and you're like, oh, I know it. Because I just remembered it. We just learned it 5 seconds ago. And so you're feeling amazing. 20 minutes later, 50% of what you learn will be forgotten. So you're like, I don't know, man. They're like, but we just went over it. And it's like, yeah, I know, but according to this forgetting curve, I forgot it. So sorry. So taking detailed notes will really, really help. And then by the time your class is over 60 minutes later, more than 50% of what you learned will be forgotten, which is like, what? And I have like how many classes back to back? Stop it. So that's why reviewing after class is super, super essential. So when you're scheduling your classes, making sure that there's a little bit of time in between where you can just boop, 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 look over your notes really, really quick, 10 minutes if you don't have enough time, but at least. And then by the end of the day, moving on to, let's say you had 3 classes today for 3 hours, you're like, I'm not doing anything else. I don't care. I'm done. I'm watching the Holiday Baking Championship. You can't tell me anything. I'm done. I'm painting a pumpkin. Get out of here. So tomorrow rolls around. Your professor asks you that same question again. 75% of what we learned is goodbye. It's gone. So really, really, really coming up with that study schedule. Super important. so that we don't end up like our zombie at the end of the week when we're like, I know I just learned all this information, but I don't remember anything. And then when it comes to your test in 3 weeks or 2 weeks later, you're like having to relearn everything all over again. You're like, I wish I had more time. You got to make more time. Okay. Yay, we're moving on. Okay, my cute little ghost. So, test taking tips, the nightmare of multiple choice. But, you know, if multiple choice is your jam, that's cool too. But we're going to talk about multiple choice. So, we want to be like Scooby Doo. We want to look for all the clues in our questions. So, if we have, the bold and the unbold, we want to make sure we focus on that. So, you guys know these things pretty well by this point, I'm assuming. And we want to read the entire question. So, especially if you have professors who don't bold the only, always, except, whew, it'll get you if you don't read the whole question, or you are perusing your notes and you're like, oh my gosh, I know that. And you see it on the exam, you're like, getting super excited. You're like, yes, I studied that. I know it. And then you get your test back and you're like, wait a second, why did I get that wrong? Like I knew the answer. So did you read it? The whole question, the entire thing from start to finish? Because sometimes we get a little ahead of ourselves and excited when we recognize a familiar question. Then answer the question in your head first. So usually, if you were in person, I would say, okay, cover up your answer sheet with like your Scantron or your paper or whatever you got. So cover it up even with your hand, and I want you to read the question, close your eyes, think about it, and then be like, oh, the answer's there, perfect. So you can still do that over Zoom by just closing your eyes, try not to move, in case you have the lockdown browser thing going on. But take a moment to answer in your head. And then, of course, the classic one, eliminate the answers that you know are wrong. So that's fun. Choosing the best answer. So this is a kicker, especially if you're going to go to graduate school or you are in graduate school. They do this all the time. You're like, but what do you mean, Professor X? Like all of the answer choices are pretty golden. What do you mean? So really examining what they're asking you for and trying not to make any assumptions. So it's like, well, I know like this could happen and that could happen. However, did the question include those assumptions that you're making in your head? And if they didn't, then it's like, okay, well, I guess it doesn't really pertain to the question. So technically it's a good answer and it would be right. But given the choices I'm given and what was included in the question, it's not relevant. So making sure you cross those out. And then the fun one, move on. Keep it pushing. Just move on. If you're like, nope, it's not coming to me. It might come to you later if you look at other questions that are similar throughout the exam. So you're like, oh, now it's clicking to me. Now I'm not as stressed out, especially if you reading the first question and you're like, I have no clue. Don't even know. And it's the first question that you start getting discouraged and you're like, oh, yep, it's going to be a bad exam, guys. It's going to be bad. So trying to come back to it, move on to something that sounds good to you, familiar to you, you know that it's right, and then go back when you feel a little bit more confident. Okay. Goodbye, testing anxiety. Reducing that stress. Yes. So, some tips. Yes. So, we want to learn how to study efficiently and effectively. That will definitely help reduce some of that anxiety and stress that you might feel when you're taking an exam. So, just like we talked about those learning styles and strategies beforehand, take them into account now. So, think about those. Are those strategies helping me get through my material efficiently and effectively? So, if you already know that reading your textbook or rereading the PowerPoints does nothing for you at all, don't do it. Don't do it. You can maybe review it at the end or when you're creating your study guide, but in order to study, if that's not how you are learning and absorbing the material and it's taking you like 17 hours, just move on to a different strategy and something that's going to work better for you. And then we have start studying earlier and in a good place. So studying earlier, as we mentioned before, creating that study schedule. So that's when our academic success coaches come into hand. So creating that study schedule, studying earlier, and finding that good place with that good lighting and with that noise free, if noise is an issue for you, area to study. And then we have our self care, 3 times self care, self care, and self care. Why? It's important. I'm sure we've been hearing a lot about self care nowadays, especially when you're trapped in your house, limited outings, all that good stuff going on right now. Self care is at the forefront. So, yes, taking those study breaks and taking breaks away from Zoom. So, if you're glued to your chair for most of the day, every day, that is going to take a toll not only on your body physically, but also mentally. So, making sure that you're taking a step back and really evaluating things. So, if face masks are your thing, go for it, but make sure that you are not doing anything else besides that face mask, which brings us into mindfulness. So focusing on one thing at a time, absorbing your surroundings, absorbing what your body is doing and how you're feeling, so you're staying in the moment, and even telling yourself internally, I am here, I am present, I am here, I am present. So just thinking about those things to kind of bring yourself back, especially when you feel overwhelmed, because you might have Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, and giving yourself that break. If you need to say, listen, Jennifer, I really can't come to that Zoom meeting tonight. I know, I promised, I did. No explanation needed. Take that time for yourself. Do what you got to do. If that's cooking a good meal, if that's exercising, if that's walking your dog, chasing squirrels, whatever floats your boat, do it. And then the last thing on here is, if you think you need accommodations, please, please, please inquire about them. So we're going to touch on that in just a moment. So resources, yes. So what I mean by that, we have the Student Disability Services, and here's their website. I'm going to drop all the links to all of these when we get to our Q&A portion. But if you think you have a disability, a learning disability, physical disability, whatever it might be, making sure that you check out this website with the Student Disability Services, so then you can access it, see what's going on, and get the accommodations that you need so that you can have a more successful experience. And then we have the Tutoring and Testing Center. Yes, right around the corner. Oh, yes, fabulous. So if you have yet to set up an appointment with an academic success coach, now is the time. So get on board with that. There's also tutoring services, and there's a whole list of resources on there, like, for example, daily calendars or weekly calendars to get yourself organized. There's a Pinterest link for tips on there as well. So checking out that. We have the student care resources. It's pretty great. They have a bunch of apps on there that you can use for taking care of yourself, webinars, workshops. Very, very helpful, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed this semester. And then we have our Center for Student Counseling and Wellbeing, formerly known as the Henderson Center. So if you have not, they have individual therapy, they have group therapy. It's rah, rah, rah for everyone. It's good. Good stuff. So check it out. And now, a word from our sponsors. Well, a word from our academic success coaches. So I'm going to ask them some questions. And if you all have some questions you'd like to ask them as well, you can put them in the chat too. Okay, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we're going to get to it. All right, my academic success coaches, how are we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good.
I'm still kind of in here. I try to log out. Oh, just
Well, I guess They figured it out. Okay. So here are some resources in the chat that I just popped in there. So any of the resources you want. So now a word. So I have a question for our academic success coaches. So what are some of your favorite de-stressifying activities?
I was like, I'll go first. Usually after a test, I like to get something to reward myself, even if I did bad. So I get like iced coffee or do a face mask, something small like that. So anything that's small that's really good for distressing.
For me, I'm the same, but I like sweets. So usually it's like cheesecake because that's my favorite food. And also, I like to just like hang out with family. My siblings are like my best friends. So usually like after like I take a big test or something, I like to just hang out with them to like chill and de-stress.
Oh, I'm a sucker for some sweets and some face masks. Yes. And family time is also great. Okay. The next question is when do you know you need a study break? When do you know it's time?
For me, I know it's time when I'm like looking at like something completely different. Like my mind will just go to like, oh, I need to check my Instagram, or oh, let me look at my messages, or so I know that when like my mind is just like anywhere but what I'm supposed to be studying.
Yeah, I have to say I'm pretty similar, like especially like if I'm studying with a group of people and I start easily getting distracted or like picking up a conversation with them, I know I need a study break. Or like if I get a headache, I wear glasses a lot to say my vision and everything. So I start getting a headache. That's definitely when I know I need a study break too.
Love it because a lot of times people are like, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going and I'm not gonna stop. And so yeah, knowing when your body and your mind are like, listen, I need a break is super important. Okay, my last question before I open it up to everybody is what advice have you offered during academic success that has been helpful for students?
I think my biggest one is I just love to tell people about like the resources that I use that help me. So like one of the biggest ones is I have different calendars that help me. A lot of people I suggest to them to get like a whiteboard calendar for next to their bed so that like right away when you go to bed at night and right when you wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you see. So you see like everything that you have to do for the day. And then also I have one on my phone. So I suggest to them just, like having calendar, making sure it's organized. Usually like I color coordinate mine and I like show them how to do it. So that's probably the most helpful thing.
For me, similar, like I like to really emphasize resources that I use. So like I like the app Headspace. It has a lot of good meditations and like audios for like working from home. It has like lo-fi beats and things like that. And I have a student discount. So it's like $10 a year. And it's usually like 50 or something like that. It's like really expensive. So I always like emphasize that. And I send them the link for the student discount. And I always emphasize like making sure that they really take care of themselves after the test or an assignment and like make sure that they're like really utilizing these resources and studying in a healthy way and not like overdoing it.
Nice. Okay, you're gonna have to drop that link for Headspace. What? Okay, because didn't know it was $10 a year. Get out of there. What? Okay. All right, I'm opening it up. So if anyone has any questions for our success coaches, go ahead and you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. Alrighty, while we're waiting for some questions, and if you don't have any, that is okay. Is there any other words of advice you'd like to give for test taking or studying?
I would say the biggest thing is just don't be afraid to ask for help. I know like a lot of people definitely struggle with studying. I know it's something that I've struggled with since I was in high school. And you know, we have like SI leaders and tutors and success coaches like us that can really help you and give you study like strategies to use. So I would say just don't be afraid to reach out if you do need help and are struggling.
Yeah, I'd say something similar. Like these services are free at NSU. So like SI, tutoring, success coaching, like all of these services are free, and like counseling. So like making sure that you use them because you eventually do pay for them in your tuition fees. So I always try to tell people that it's like more than okay to schedule these appointments and things like that.
Beautiful, beautiful responses. Lovely. I agree. So reaching out for help. One thing I didn't mention in the presentation was also like asking your professors as well. So reaching out to your professors and letting them know if you're having trouble so that you can get everything fixed right away. Well, not right away, but in due time. Any other questions for our lovely success coaches? Alrighty then. Well, without further ado, thank you all for coming out tonight. And thank you to Cassandra and Haley for helping us out with some questions. And I hope you have a wonderful night. And this recording will be available on our lovely YouTube. So just check us out.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
Thank you.